Hey there, everyone. Steve Gonzer, physical therapist with Run Smart Online here. So today's Monday night. Just finished with a day full of patients before the holiday here. Depending on when you watch this, this is about 2 days before Christmas. So things were jam-packed today. I had a lot of cool questions that I wanted to come to you about. And this is what I'm going to talk about: heat and ice, because there's a lot of confusion on, when should you use heat? How should you use ice? So I figured I'd just give you guys a lowdown because I talked to a bunch of patients about this today. So I wrote in my notes to go live to bring to you guys to help you. Because I talk about this a lot. If you're a runner and you want to try to avoid injury, that's great. You're going to focus on strength and do all these different things, but you're going to get hurt at some point. You can have the best training, the best strength, the best balance, greatest diet in the world. You're going to get hurt. It's the nature of the sport. So how can you do things that will give you the quickest turnaround from injury? And I'll talk about this throughout the next week or so and continue to talk about this. But when should you use ice? When should you use heat? Let me talk about that. Before I forget, if you want to help with your training, there's a link in this post. You can go there, build training plans, strength workouts, all that stuff. So hopefully you don't have to worry about heat and ice all the time. So here's what I have to say. This will be pretty quick. When you have an injury or something's starting to get aggravated, you're going to have this initial response from the body. The initial response of the body is always to cause inflammation. Inflammation is from tissue breakdown. It's from things tearing or things getting bruised. Or bruised is kind of in a tearing sense as well. But there's an injury. There's an injury to tissue which causes this inflammatory response. And then inflammatory response signals to the brain like, hey, there's some damage down here. I want you to start calling all these cells to the area. They're going to clean it up because there's going to be debris. The easiest analogy is to think about it as debris when you have an injury. Like you feel your hamstring pull or your calf pull or whatever it is, there's going to be an inflammatory response. During that time, inflammation is completely normal. I see a lot of people using Motrin really early in the cycle, and unless the inflammation is getting out of control, sometimes you want to hold off on Motrin and let the control the inflammatory response, but not dampen it. Because remember, there's tissue that is injured, and the body gets an inflammatory response with signals there's injury. And then what happens after the inflammatory response is the proliferation phase, the repair phase of healing, and that's when the body comes in and heals everything back up to normal. And what I tend to see is a couple things. One, people that don't use heat or ice at all because they don't know which one to use. And I can tell you, generally, you're really not going to ruin yourself by using the wrong one. But often, if you think about it, they keep hammering that inflammatory phase. Like they'll have pain, they'll have irritation, they'll have some injury, and then they let it calm down because the body will clean things up over a couple days, and then they just smash into it again and restart the inflammatory stage over and over and over again, and it turns into chronic. So we want to start managing that phase early on. So here's what you're going to do. You have an injury. You're going to only really worry about icing for 2 to 3 days. Usually that 48 to 72 hour window is enough to control inflammation and control irritation. So that's going to calm the tissue down. Think of it like underneath the skin. The easiest analogy I always like if you cut your arm, you can visibly see like, oh, that thing is not healed yet. In fact, I cut my thumb on a cheese grater not too long ago, and the sucker would not heal. It was at the joint too, so every time I bend my thumb, it would break open again. But you can visibly see that cut. And if you have a cut right now, you'll notice it takes like 3 months for the scar to form, for it to heal over, to feel really good. When you have injured tissue from running, you actually have that cut underneath the surface. You just can't see it. So when you start feeling better, you just start ripping on it again. So 2 to 3 days is really that inflammatory response. You want to ice, you want to lay off of it. You don't necessarily need to kill yourself with Motrin and kill your liver and kill your stomach with Motrin. You can actually just use some ice. Now with icing, my recommendation is never to go more than 20 minutes. Because if you go over 20 minutes, a lot of people are like, oh, I iced all day yesterday. And when you go over 20 minutes, to make it really simple to understand, when you go over 20 minutes, the body says to that area, wow, that's been really cold for a long time. Why don't I warm it up? And how do you warm up an area? The body pushes blood there. So you have this injury that's trying to heal, or trying to have this inflammatory response. You're trying to stop blood from going to the area so it's not this big exacerbated response that is going to cause widespread issues. And then you keep ice on it for a really long time to minimize blood flow. And after 20 minutes, the body starts shoving more blood to the area, trying to warm it up. So 20 minutes would be your max. You don't need to go over that. And generally what I tell people and tell my runners is that 20 on, 20 off, 20 on, 20 off. If you follow that ebb and flow of equal on time to equal off time, you can't really go wrong with it. You should be pretty safe. So that would be the first thing. A lot of people like alternate heat and ice back and forth. Early on, just ice. 2 to 3 days of just icing 20 minutes maximum, equal on and off time. So hopefully that helps you guys. Again, if you want more information about injury management and strength and all that stuff, go to the link in this post. We have some more stuff that you can use and look at as a member. Then we talk about heat. So how can you use heat? And I think heat is super valuable, super underutilized. Here in Buffalo, we all love heat because it's just cold a lot of the time. So heat is very powerful for people who are not inflamed anymore, but you want to promote blood flow. So let's go back to the analogy of having a cut on your skin. So once you, let's say, really kind of graphic, you took a knife and you cut yourself, or you cut yourself on something and it's open, it's bleeding. Okay, we need that bleeding to stop, and we need it to start scarring over. You need that scab, okay? Eventually, that acute pain, that 2 to 3 day pain where it's more severe, it's more intense, it's burning, it's searing, calms down. And then you go into the subacute phase of healing. You're not acute anymore, you're subacute. So during this phase, you want to encourage blood flow. You want to encourage things because blood flow is oxygen, blood flow is nutrients, blood flow helps you heal faster if it's not causing this widespread cascading inflammatory response. So when I get people past the point where they can walk without pain, go up and down stairs without pain, they're really kind of day to day in their life, but they're just like, I just can't run. That is usually for me 100% a heating issue. So I will use heat a lot. There's a lot of things like, you have laser therapy, you have ultrasound, you have heating pads, you have all these things. And really the goal of laser, of ultrasound, is to increase blood flow by using heat. So you could just go the poor man's method and use a heating pad. And the ultrasound and things can go a little bit deeper, which is nice for certain tissues. Laser, same thing. That's usually cold laser, but you can use the heating pad really well to get deep into the muscle and increase the blood flow. So think about it this way. When you put ice on, your blood vessels go like this. They constrict, they get smaller. So more blood flow can't filter into that area. When you put heat on, the blood vessel opens up, it dilates. And that dilation allows for a bigger garden hose and a bigger trunk to send blood flow to the area, which is really important if we want to increase the healing process, increasing the healing time. So what I'll have people do is I'll follow the same rules. I'll do equal on time and off time with heat. You'll go 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, and you can alternate that back and forth. One of the coolest things about heat is that, I like that people have people really active in their recovery, but if you're sitting around, you're reading before bed, watching TV before bed, maybe watching Run Smart's awesome videos before bed, just put some heat on it and it'll help increase blood flow. You can increase blood flow by activity or with some heat. So if you're not going to go out and walk, you're not going to go out and run or exercise, and you're just kind of hanging out for the night, heat is very valuable to improve healing times and to help you heal faster so you can get back out on the road sooner and quicker. Ultimately, what you have to do is you have to be smart in your recovery. If you're going to continue to crash into injuries and not let them heal properly, that's where you're going to run into a lot of trouble. Injuries can always go from being acute and inflammatory to subacute and healing and back into that acute phase where you need more ice. So early on, you could re-injure and have to go back to ice, certainly, and then eventually transition back to heat. If you need help with injuries in general, click on the link in this post. We have an injury management seminar you can look at as a member to Run Smart Online. If you're not injured, that's great. You can take advantage of our strength workouts and training plans to help you stay that way. But hopefully this video was helpful. If you know someone who could use who would benefit from seeing this, go ahead and tag them in the comments. It helps me know that what I'm saying is actually helping you guys. So I appreciate you all. Hope everyone has a great night, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, bye-bye.